When a racist cop slams a black veteran against his car, he never expects to see the Medal of Honor fall from his neck. What happens next changes a nation. Watch this powerful two-part story about dignity, justice, and awakening that don't forget to like, subscribe, and share support stories that speak truth and inspire change. The sun was just setting over a quiet highway in Virginia when Marcus Hill, a 38-year-old veteran, drove home from his mother's house. He was calm, tired, and proud. He had just retired after 20 years in the U.S. Army, serving in some of the toughest zones overseas. Hanging from his neck, tucked beneath his shirt, was the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration. But that night, the uniform he once wore, the one that commanded respect, didn't matter. A flashing blue light appeared in his rearview mirror. Marcus sighed, pulling over. "Here we go again," he muttered. It wasn't his first time being stopped for driving while black. Officer Ryan Kessler, a 32-year-old white cop with a reputation for arrogance, stepped out of his cruiser. His hand already rested on his gun. "License and registration," he barked. Marcus, calm as ever, replied, "Sure thing, officer. Can I ask what this is about?" Kessler frowned. "You were swerving. You high?" Marcus blinked. "No, sir. I'm a retired—" "Step out of the car," the cop interrupted. The traffic camera above flickered as the confrontation unfolded. Marcus stepped out slowly, hands visible. He wasn't looking for trouble, but Kessler was. "Put your hands on the hood," he ordered. Before Marcus could speak, Kessler slammed him onto the car, twisting his arm. People nearby gasped. Marcus winced in pain, his shirt collar tearing slightly, revealing the Medal of Honor shining against his chest. Kessler froze. His face went pale. Another officer, arriving as backup, whispered, "Ryan, that's the Medal of Honor. That's Marcus Hill, the war hero." The world seemed to stop. Cameras were out. Bystanders shouted, "You just assaulted a national hero." Kessler's hand trembled. "Sir, I didn't." Marcus turned his head slightly, voice low but firm. "You looked at my skin before you looked at me." The backup officer immediately uncuffed Marcus and called a sergeant. Within minutes, command was notified. The incident was about to go viral. And as Kessler stood there, realizing the man he'd brutalized had saved American lives in combat, Marcus's calm eyes told him something no courtroom ever could. But the story didn't end there. Because Marcus was about to show the world that dignity doesn't need a badge. It needs courage. The next morning, the entire nation knew Marcus Hill's name. The video of Officer Ryan Kessler slamming him against the hood, only for the Medal of Honor to fall into view, had been viewed over 25 million times overnight. The hashtags #JusticeForMarcus and #HonorNotColor trended across every platform. People weren't just angry. They were ashamed that a man who had nearly died protecting the flag had to defend himself against the same system he'd fought for. Every news outlet picked up the story. Veterans called into talk shows. Furious. One retired colonel said on live television, "If that officer can't recognize a Medal of Honor recipient, maybe he shouldn't be wearing a badge." Marcus stayed quiet. He didn't want fame. He wanted change. A press van parked outside his modest home, but he refused interviews. Instead, he walked out calmly, wearing his medal, and said, "I serve this country because I believe in its promise. But that promise has to mean something for people who look like me." The crowd fell silent. That single statement made headlines across the nation. Inside the police station, chaos brewed. Officer Kessler was suspended immediately pending investigation. The chief of police, under immense pressure, called a press conference. Officer Kessler's conduct was unacceptable, he said, sweating under the lights. "We've launched a full review and reached out to Mr. Hill personally." But it wasn't enough. Protests began forming outside the station. Veterans of all races stood shoulder to shoulder with signs reading, "A hero shouldn't have to prove his worth." Even Kessler's own colleagues distanced themselves. Some whispered that he had always shown attitude toward black drivers. When federal investigators arrived, they uncovered multiple complaints, all buried in paperwork. Kessler's pattern of racially motivated stops stretched back 5 years. The department's cover-up began to crumble. Marcus didn't seek revenge. When asked if he'd sue, he simply said, "Justice doesn't always mean punishment. Sometimes it means awakening." But privately, he worked with a civil rights attorney, and his case led to the introduction of a new state law requiring racial bias training for all officers and stricter disciplinary oversight. At the bill's signing, the governor looked directly at Marcus and said, "Your courage made this possible." For once, the applause wasn't for war. It was for peace. Meanwhile, Officer Ryan Kessler faces reckoning. The footage played during his internal hearing. When asked what went through his mind during the stop, he lowered his head. "I thought I was stopping a threat," he muttered. The panel chairman responded sharply. "You were, but the threat wasn't him. It was your own bias." Kessler was stripped of his badge. His name became synonymous with everything wrong in modern policing. Months later, he appeared publicly, apologizing to Marcus during a televised reconciliation forum. "I failed you," Kessler said. Marcus nodded. "No, you failed yourself, but you can still change." The audience gave a standing ovation. Marcus later founded a nonprofit called Honor Beyond Color, aimed at connecting veterans with law enforcement agencies to teach empathy, discipline, and respect. He became a powerful advocate for reform, giving speeches in schools and community centers. One quote of his went viral: "I fought enemies overseas, but the battle for equality is here at home, and it's one we can win together." Years later, on Memorial Day, Marcus stood at Arlington Cemetery, saluting his fallen brothers. Children ran up to him, asking to see his medal. He smiled, kneeling down to their level. "It's not the medal that matters," he said softly. "It's the reason you wear it." Behind him, a new plaque had been unveiled, honoring not just soldiers of valor, but citizens of courage. And at the bottom, engraved in bronze, were his words: "Respect is earned through humanity, not authority." The crowd applauded. Marcus's story wasn't about revenge. It was about redemption. And for once, America was listening.